Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time?
For more than 20 years, Jimmy Kimmel has been America's late-night comfort food. The pranks, the viral interviews, the moments that made you laugh when you needed it most. But lately, something's different. In Hollywood's backrooms, whispers have started. Whispers about an exit, about a backup plan, about a move so strange, even his closest friends didn't see it coming. From political feuds that turned ugly, to jokes that sparked outrage, to a decision that could end his career on his own terms. This is the untold truth of Jimmy Kimmel's final act. Before the controversies, before the headlines, there was just a kid from Brooklyn. A kid with a sharp wit, a mischievous streak, and an obsession with making people laugh. Jimmy Kimmel started small, radio, local gigs. The grind no one remembers once you've made it. Then came the big break. The Man Show. Edgy, provocative, sometimes downright offensive. But it got people talking, and it put Jimmy on the map. By 2003, a BC rolled the dice. Jimmy Kimmel Live was born. A late-night experiment in the era of Leno, Letterman, and Conan. The show found its voice, and Kimmel found his place. He could roast a celebrity and have them back on the couch the next night. He was sharp, fearless, and in control. But even in the golden years, the first cracks were forming, and soon, the laughter would be interrupted by headlines Jimmy could never joke his way out of. Every late-night host has their moments of controversy, a joke that goes too far, a bit that ages badly. But for Jimmy Kimmel, some of those moments didn't just fade away. They came back, louder than ever. In May 2025, a single joke ignited a firestorm. During a casual sports segment, Kimmel compared NFL legends Eli and Peyton Manning to the Menendez brothers, two men convicted of murdering their parents. For some, it was just a dark joke. For others, it was a line that should never have been crossed. The backlash was instant. Social media lit up. Fans called it tasteless. Critics called it career suicide. And while a BC stood behind him, the incident planted a seed of doubt in the public's mind. But that wasn't the only skeleton in Jimmy's closet. Old footage resurfaced, sketches from the early 2000s, where Kimmel wore blackface to impersonate and be a star Karl Malone. At the time, it barely dented his career. But in today's climate, it became a weapon. Megyn Kelly, former Fox News anchor, went on the attack, calling Kimmel and his ex, comedian Sarah Silverman, examples of Hollywood hypocrisy, accusing them of playing by a different set of rules. Rules that protected certain comedians while destroying others. It was a debate that split audiences in two. Some defended Kimmel's comedy as of its time. Others demanded accountability, even decades later. And through it all, Jimmy Kimmel stayed mostly quiet. On air, he smiled. He kept the jokes flowing, but privately, insiders say the pressure was mounting. The old days of consequence-free comedy were over. Asterisk, but controversy alone wasn't enough to shake Jimmy's empire. That would take something, or someone much bigger. And that's when Donald Trump entered the story. If there's one person you don't want to get into a public feud with, it's Donald Trump. The man doesn't forgive. And he never forgets. For years, Jimmy Kimmel poked fun at Trump from behind the safety of his desk. Monologue after monologue, the late-night host took aim at Trump's policies, his persona, even his tweets.
Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? Well, thank you, President Trump. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time?
It was standard late-night comedy until it wasn't, because in 2025, Trump fired back. In a single post, he called out both Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon, suggesting they might be next to go after the shock cancellation of Stephen Colbert's Late Show.
Basically, he is the worst host in the history. He reads the whole thing, and then I think he said something like, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me, or some crap like that. I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope.
It was part insult, part warning, and for a man like Kimmel, it was a moment to think twice. The late-night world was already shrinking. Ratings across the board were falling. Networks were tightening budgets. If Trump's allies wanted him gone, the timing couldn't be worse. Publicly, Kimmel brushed it off with humor. Privately, They were whispers. Producers noticed a change. Less biting political jabs, more lighthearted celebrity bits. Some saw it as strategy, others as survival. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because instead of doubling down, Jimmy Kimmel made a move that baffled even his closest friends. He secured Italian citizenship. Officially, it was about heritage. Unofficially, some believe it was an escape plan. A way out if the political climate in America took a darker turn. Was this just a proud Italian-American embracing his roots? Or was it the first sign that Jimmy Kimmel was preparing to leave America's late-night stage for good? In early 2025, the paperwork was finalized. Jimmy Kimmel became an Italian citizen. Officially, it was a story about family roots. Kimmel's heritage traces back to Naples, a point he's mentioned casually over the years. But this time, the timing raised eyebrows. Because the announcement didn't come in a feel-good interview or on his show. It slipped into the headlines quietly, days after Donald Trump publicly took aim at him. Some in Hollywood saw nothing unusual. Others saw a safety net. With Italy's citizenship comes certain protections. Easier travel, tax advantages, even a second place to call home if the political climate shifts. And it wasn't just the political tensions. Behind the scenes, the late-night world was changing fast. Stephen Colbert's cancellation shocked the industry. Rumors swirled that ABC was evaluating costs, even for long-standing hosts like Kimmel. Was Kimmel reading the writing on the wall? Was this move about protecting his future? Before the network made a decision for him, and then, Kimmel himself dropped a hint. In an interview, he admitted, this might be his final contract. The end of Jimmy Kimmel Live could come as soon as the 2025-26 season. Not because of ratings, not because of scandal, but because he's ready to walk away. Or at least, that's the story he's telling. Because others, people close to the industry, believe the truth runs deeper. A truth that ties together the controversies, the politics, the travel documents, and one very personal reason that could make Kimmel disappear from television forever. When you've been on top for more than 2 decades, there's only one question left to answer. When do you walk away? In recent interviews, Jimmy Kimmel has hinted, sometimes with a smile, sometimes without, that his current ABC contract may be his last. The deal runs through the 2025-26 season. After that, he says, it might be time to go. It's not about the money. It's not about the ratings. By late-night standards, Kimmel's numbers are still solid. And ABC, insiders say, would happily keep him for years to come. But here's the part the official story doesn't tell. Multiple sources close to the show believe the decision isn't purely voluntary. That Kimmel's exit talk began not long after ABC executives started quietly evaluating late-night's future and how much it costs to keep these shows alive. In an age of streaming and shrinking ad dollars, others say it's more personal. And that's where the story takes a turn no one expected. Because behind the jokes, behind the monologues, behind the Italian passport, is a father. A father whose young son has battled serious health issues for years. For Jimmy Kimmel, every hospital visit, every doctor's appointment, has been a reminder that late-night television isn't the only thing worth his time. And for a man who spent half his life working nights, family time comes at a cost. So which is it? Is Jimmy Kimmel leaving because he's ready? Because the industry is changing? Because politics have gotten too dangerous? Or because there's nothing left to prove? The answer might be all of the above. But one thing is certain. If Jimmy Kimmel walks away, it won't be a quiet exit. And the clues for what comes next are already in plain sight. Long before he was America's late-night wisecracker, Jimmy Kimmel was just a kid from Brooklyn, raised in a tight-knit family that valued loyalty above everything. And if you've followed his career closely, you've seen it. That moment in 2017, when he broke down in tears on live television, telling the world about his newborn son's heart surgery. For millions of viewers, it was the first time the mask of the entertainer slipped, and the father stepped forward.
He got to the hospital very quickly. They did an echocardiogram, which is a sonogram of the heart, and found that Billy was born with a heart disease, something called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia.
Since then, his priorities have shifted. He's still the guy cracking jokes about politicians and celebrities, but more and more, He's the dad who makes time for school plays, soccer games, and quiet dinners. At home, friends say that whenever the cameras stop rolling, Kimmel's first thought is about his kids. Not ratings. Not viral clips. Not even the next big celebrity guest. And here's where the Italian citizenship starts to make sense in a different way. For some, it's an escape plan. For Kimmel, maybe it's a future. A place for his family to live quietly, far from the noise of American politics and Hollywood's endless grind. But there's a flip side to this story, because if Kimmel does leave the late-night stage, there are people who say he won't be able to stay away. That the thrill of performing, the need to entertain, it's in his DNA, and that even if he steps away from a BC, he may reappear somewhere else in a form no one expects. And that's where our story takes its final twist. One that could flip the entire narrative of Jimmy Kimmel's so-called downfall on its head. Every great story has one last reveal, and in Jimmy Kimmel's case, it might already be hiding in plain sight. Because while the headlines scream retirement, the paper trail tells a different story. In the past 6 months, Kimmel has quietly registered 2 new production companies, one in California and one in Italy. The official purpose? Creative development. But industry insiders believe these companies are more than just shell entities. They could be the launchpads for a new kind of Jimmy Kimmel show, one that isn't bound to a BC, or to the rules of late-night television at all. Some whispers point to streaming deals already in discussion. Others suggest a political documentary series, something more personal, more dangerous, and far more polarizing than anything he's done before. And then there's the wild theory. A few sources claim that Kimmel's Italian citizenship isn't just about family or taxes, but about staging an international move that could put him in the center of European entertainment. Imagine, it's a talk show filmed in Rome, with global guests and no American network holding the reins. If that happens, the so-called downfall of Jimmy Kimmel won't be a fall at all. It will be a transformation into something bigger, freer, and far more unpredictable than anyone in late-night history. And when that day comes, we'll all be watching from both sides of the ocean. If you want to be here when it happens, hit subscribe, join the journey, and don't miss the next chapter.